Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fulcrum Group's monthly webinar series. This is 8 steps for successfully managing your IT vendors. I am Dale Hauser of VCIO with the Fulcrum Group. Today, we're going to be going over 8 steps you can take to manage your IT vendors more effectively. This webinar is being recorded and everyone is muted. Submit your questions via chat. We will answer the questions at the end of the presentation, so let's go ahead and get started. Today's agenda will be start a complete list of your IT vendors, cultivate a relationship with your vendors, speak your vendor's language, manage your vendors to lower your costs, measure your vendors to ensure they meet contract terms and service level agreements, identify gaps in your IT vendors and their service offerings, manage your IT vendors' budget and hype, avoid spending all of your IT vendor budget, and then we'll have a Q&A. The very first thing you want to do is you want to start a list of your IT vendors. The most important thing is to know who to call for what service. No two companies are the same. They have different ways of communication. They have different ways they store your customer information. They have different delivery expectations. They have different service level agreements. Understand who it is you're supposed to call for what service, and understand what to expect when you contact them, and know what their process is, so that way you give yourself enough time to plan for a project or a change or a move, wherever the case may be. Know ahead of time how you need to contact them. Understand that for some people they like voicemail, email, phone calls, text, whatever the case may be. Just make sure you understand how it is you contact your vendor. It's also a good idea to know what your contract obligation, or what their contractual obligations are to you. Understand when you started service, when it expires, when the renewal is, what the window for renewal is. Timing is everything, especially when it comes to moves or service upgrades or whatever the case may be. Cultivate a relationship with your vendors. Make sure your vendors know who you are, and make sure that they understand, that you're not just a voice on the other side of the phone. The better relationship you have with your vendors, the more personal ownership they're going to take with your particular situation. So the more you involve them in the planning phase of what it is you're trying to accomplish, the more result-oriented they're going to be. And not only that, they're going to be prepared that if there is an emergency or a situation that needs to be addressed, that you don't have to bring them up to speed. They're already aware of the situation. And also they're able to give you some insight as to some caveats you may not have planned for or thought of when going into a project or changing a service or migrating or whatever it is. So get to know multiple people at your vendor. People go on vacations. People have kids who get sick. People get sick themselves. So just make sure you have an alternate contact in case you need immediate attention, or you have an emergency, or you just need an answer right away. Speak your vendor's language. Understand who it is you need to contact for what, and when you contact them, understand what it is you're trying to tell them you need. If you can use your service provider to be your liaison with that vendor, I recommend it. We at the Fulcrum Group do vendor management all the time. We're contacting vendors on customers' behalf. We understand what the customer needs. We understand how to tell the vendor what the customer needs, and we understand what it is that is needed and what needs to be delivered, so that way there's no mix-ups or misunderstandings. And this will also free you up to focus on what you need to be focused on, and that's business-related items. As most of you know, if you've dealt with a vendor before, it can become very cumbersome, and if you wind up being the middleman, it becomes more cumbersome, and it also lends itself to things getting lost in translation. Manage your vendors to lower your costs. Review your invoices, make sure you're receiving what it is they say they're giving you, and make sure you're receiving it at a value. We've had a couple customers here lately who've contacted their ISPs looking to get service upgrades for their location to find out that not only could they get service upgrades, but it was at no cost. So just make sure you understand what your vendor is supposed to be providing, and make sure you know what you want and what you need. The more detail you have, the better off you are of getting exactly what it is you need at the best price. And when it comes to projects, make sure you have everything organized, planned, and ready to go. Vendors tend to pad projects with labor time, uh, just in case there's some scope creep. And what that means is for items that weren't accounted for when scoping an original project. Just make sure the more detail you have, the better understanding the vendor has of what the cost is going to take to provide whatever particular service or to complete whatever project it is you're intending to. Be sure to measure your vendors. Keep a report card. Keep them accountable. Make sure that they're delivering what they say they're going to deliver. Uh, make sure you're keeping an eye on response times. Make sure you're measuring time to resolve. If it's your ISP, make sure you know what your uptimes are. If you've had chronic downtime, not only is that cost reflective, but also you need to make sure that you don't have some equipment that may need to be addressed. So just make sure you're keeping an eye on your vendors, make sure they're delivering what they promise. And if they're promising documentation or diagrams, or whatever the case may be, make sure they're delivering what they say they're going to deliver in a timely fashion. Know your gaps in coverage. What this simply means is make sure that when you're being provided a service and you expect that service to be delivered, that it's covering everything that you need. A common misconception is backups as opposed to disaster recovery. Two totally different things. Backing up is just simply taking data from one spot and putting it in another. Disaster recovery is actually giving you an opportunity to put that data in a place where it can't be destroyed. It also gives you a situation where you can create a pseudo site to bring your network up and running if you need to. So just make sure you understand what it is that you're expecting and what you're being delivered, and make sure there's no gaps in them. If there are, make sure you're contacting the proper resources to fill those gaps. Technology skills are not always all the same. People who work on firewalls may not know what your virtualization situation is. So just make sure you're having the right people looking at the right items and making sure you have coverage across those items. Manage your vendor budget. Salespeople often overpromise, so make sure that you're getting exactly what you're expecting and in a timely fashion. Take your time before deciding. Make sure that you're making a decision, a good sound decision, and don't make a snap decision, because that typically leads to getting the wrong product for the wrong situation, and it winds up costing you time and money. Make sure you get everything that you're being promised. Avoid spending your entire IT budget. Make sure you leave a little bit in reserve. Make sure you plan for emergencies. Things happen. You have devices out there that are out of warranty that may fail, and there's just certain situations that you may not plan for. Just make sure you have some reserve on hand to cover those items when they do come up. Make sure you're also staying on top of your ongoing contracts, your annual cloud services, licensing, warranties, things of that nature. Make sure that you have those items covered and you're budgeted for. The last thing you want to do is receive a renewal notice for an item you didn't budget for, and then have to go get budget money to cover that item. Just make sure that you have all your obligations covered and spoken for and budgeted for. And that concludes our webinar. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. And if you have any questions or concerns or you need some assistance managing your IT vendors, feel free to contact us here at the Fulcrum Group. Have a great day.